We do not need or want federal troops in Oregon stoking fear, creating conflict.
Right now on KGW, local leaders react after President Trump takes the first steps in deploying federal troops to the Rose City. Some Portlanders worry the president's move will just amplify tensions. Plus, a police officer placed on leave after they apparently put a suspect in a neck hold. What we're learning about the incident and the investigation now underway. And later,
I just love it. I mean, I get way more out of it. You know, it all comes back here.
meet the woman making waves well into her 90s. How swim instructor Gwen Foley is changing lives in and out of the pool. KGW News at Sunrise starts now. Good morning, and thanks for getting up with us as we kick off your Sunday. It is 6 o'clock. I'm Libby Dowsett alongside Corey Johnson, and we have this one more day of dry weather.
Yes.
We hope.
We hope, yes. Later into the evening, it could get a little wet really late tonight, but for the most part, we're going to enjoy beautiful temperatures today, similar to what we had tomorrow. So if you like Saturday's weather that we had, Sunday is going to be right on par with that. Our temperatures right now starting off a little bit cool for us. Mainly upper 50s across much of our area near the coast and across Willamette Valley. This is a live picture from our Chinookwan's casino camera out in Lincoln City. Some dense fog for us out there this morning, and that's going to continue for us as we get into the early afternoon hours. 54 degrees for us there. This is our Wells Fargo Tower camera. It's going to be a dry, calm day for us for the most part. Our Rose City camera looking really good at this hour, 56 degrees. And our Chehalem tasting room camera, very, very dark outside in Sherwood, 50 degrees for us there. Also our Providence Park camera, 55 degrees, calm winds for us throughout much of that area right now. Our day planner though, giving you a look at what you can expect. By the early morning, cool and clear is what we are going to continue to see. Late morning, it gets to about 64, mostly sunny is what we'll see then. And then early afternoon, 72 degrees, topping at around 75. But we do have some rain that's moving in late tonight. I'll break it all down coming up in just a bit, Libby.
Thank you, Corey.
People across the state and across the political spectrum here in Oregon are uniting together to peacefully oppose policies that they do not agree with.
We don't want our retail hospitality and vibrancy to be impacted like we've seen in Washington, D.C.
In our top story this morning, what you might call a unified voice along the Portland waterfront after President Trump announced he's directing the federal government to send in, quote, all necessary troops. He's authorizing what he calls full force in the Rose City. In his post, which seemed to take Pentagon officials by surprise, the president called the Portland area, quote, war ravaged, and says troops are needed to protect the city, particularly at federal facilities, including the ICE facility on the south waterfront. Meantime, Oregon Governor Tina Kotek, flanked by Portland Mayor Keith Wilson, fired back Saturday, calling federal troops unnecessary. Governor Kotek says she spoke directly with President Trump, telling him he should not be reacting to outdated or misleading reports about Portland.
We have to be careful not to respond to outdated media coverage or misinformation that's out there. We know what's happening in our own city.
Imagine if the federal government sent hundreds of engineers or teachers or outreach workers to Portland instead of a short, expensive, and fruitless show of force.
Labor Secretary and former Oregon Congresswoman Lori Chavez Dreamer thanked the president on social media, saying she's seen Portland transform into a, quote, crime-ridden war zone. But state and local Democrats, including Secretary of State Tobias Reed, Attorney General Dan Rayfield, and Senator Jeff Merkley, urged Portlanders not to take the bait. So far, troops have been sent to Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., and Memphis, each deployment drawing questions about constitutional rights. Local leaders also referenced the 2020 Portland protests again and again. They say the events we've seen this year, including small-scale and near-nightly protests outside the ICE building and some occasional vandalism, violence, and arrests, by no means compare to what we saw in 2020. From their perspective, they say things are under control. You may remember in 2020 demonstrations, some of which turned violent, and they went on for months in the streets of downtown Portland. Those demonstrations were sparked by the death of George Floyd and then grew into much more, including concerns over police tactics and calls for racial justice. The federal government sent in additional federal agents then, not requested by the state or local leaders. Largely, the government said they were there to protect federal property and personnel. And since then, we've seen security upgrades at the federal courthouse, and government contracts show the feds are in the middle of a $4 million project to upgrade security at the local ICE facility. That work began in 2022 and includes stronger fencing, new gates, reinforced security glass, and more floodlights. In June, federal records show the government paid $220,000 to board up the facility's windows, which then caused the city to issue the building a land use violation. The city says ICE did not get proper permits or approval to board up those windows. And right now, it's unclear when or if the president will follow through on deploying troops to Portland. Kotek says their call yesterday ended with the president telling her, quote, "Let's keep talking about it." If you'd like to hear more from local and community leaders as questions swirl around when and where troops will be deployed and how many, we've made it easy. Just text the word RESPONSE to 503-226-5088, and we will text you back with a link to the very latest information. In other developing news this morning, 2 Portland police officers are recovering after a violent struggle with a suspect that ended with one officer using a neck hold. Now, that suspect is being charged with attempted murder for allegedly trying to grab an officer's gun. Police say officers were called to Northeast 33rd near I-84 near 9 Saturday morning after reports that a man was swinging a metal pipe at passing cars. Officers eventually found the suspect at Oregon Park and a fight ensued. That's when police say 43-year-old Bo Davis went for an officer's gun, and one of them used a neck hold to subdue him. Davis was taken to the hospital as a precaution. Both officers were also hospitalized, one with a hand injury, the other with a head injury. While that suspect is now being charged with attempted murder, investigators are also treating this as a deadly use of force investigation. And that is because under PPB policy, anytime an officer uses physical force that puts pressure on someone's neck, even if that person does not lose consciousness, it's considered deadly force. Homicide detectives have been called in to investigate. The officer who used the neck hold is now on paid administrative leave, which is standard procedure.